Hey guys, so I've attempted to film this video several times, and I even uploaded it this morning, but my, the audio was missing at some of the parts, so I had to take it down, and then when I tried to re-render it, it wasn't working, and then when I tried to put it into another editing system, it wasn't working either. So instead of making excuses, I'm just going to film it again. So this is about my part B of Unrequited love. So if you haven't watched the first part, I talked about, in part A, I talked about this guy that I liked in high school, and I liked him for 6 years. I'll link the video down below if you haven't seen it, but that will kind of give you another perspective. I felt like I've had unrequited love with two guys, one being part A, or Invisible Boy, and the second one is part B, or what I like to call him, the Tattooed Philosopher. So I guess the best way to start this story out is to kind of start from the beginning. We were, I was a freshman in college, and it was my second semester, and I was recruited by this guy who was the president of one of the organizations that I was in, and I wasn't in the organization that he was wanting me to go on the conference to, but they really needed someone, so he asked me if I would go with him. Go with the group and be this one girl's partner. So because I was very much at that age, especially freshman year of college, I was just really about like doing things and just trying to be a go-getter. So anyways, I decided, yeah, I'll go on this trip. And so I joined the club, and I would go to meetings every week. And something to kind of know about me, I am one of those people that can go into a room and just completely miss people, just completely not see certain people. And it's been like this for basically my whole life, and I don't know if it's an introverted intuition thing or if it's just a me thing, but let me know if you guys experience this too. But oftentimes, like in classes, like let's say I had a history class with someone, I would just not see certain people, and people would just come up to me, like especially in my university, and be like, "Oh, Emily, you were in my this history class," and I'm like, "Oh, yeah," like acting like I knew, but I didn't. I had never seen them before. Of course I probably had, but it just didn't register. So that's kind of relevant to the story, because when I would show up to these meetings, the individual that I'm talking about, or the Tattooed Philosopher, I did not notice whatsoever. I didn't even know he was in the club. And so when I would go to these meetings, I would hang out with a few people, and we would kind of talk and stuff. And then it got closer and closer to conference, and we were trying to find carpool groups. So I signed up with my partner. She was having one of her friends that wasn't, I don't even know if she went to the same university or even went to school, but she was going to drive us. And then this other guy, who I thought was this one person that I remember from the club, he was like this older guy. I thought he was the person that was going with us because I didn't know his name. So I was just like, okay, so it's just the four of us in the car. Anyways, flash forward to when my partner's friend picked us up. I was the last to be picked up at my dorm. Sorry about the shaky camera. I'm filming this on my phone. But it was like 5:30 in the morning or something like that, just early in the morning. Everybody was tired. And so I just rushed to get my stuff and get into the car. And of course that girl was driving us, and then my partner was in the passenger seat, and then there was this guy to my very left hand side, and he was just kind of like half asleep, or like closing his eyes. And I was like, oh, I haven't seen him before. Who's he? And then I realized, oh, maybe I got the wrong person. Maybe I thought he was, oh, I must have thought that that one guy was him when this is the guy. So I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess Emily strikes again. She didn't she didn't pay attention to someone. And again, I don't mean it to be like, I don't mean it in a malicious way or anything like that. It's just something that I do, and I know I should work on that. Really try to look at everybody in the room, or like try to be more aware of my surroundings, but it's just like sometimes I just can't help it. But anyways, so we continue on to go to the airport, and my partner's friend was talking about relationships. She was like dating this older guy, and my partner and I were just giving her advice and just kind of talking to her and relating with her. And all the while, that guy was just, again, either pretending to be asleep or he was asleep. And so we go to the airport, and I remember we were at checking in or something and waiting for people because our whole group was coming to the airport. Then all of a sudden, I get a tap on my left-hand shoulder, and it's one of those things where you look behind where someone tapped you, and then they happen to be on the other side of you. So I looked, I fell for it, I looked to the left, nobody was there. I looked to my right, no one was there. And then on my right side in front of me, there was that guy, and he was looking back at me. I think he waved, and then he smirked or something, and then just walked off. But anyways, I was just like, okay, that was really weird, whatever. So I just continued on with going to the location that we were going to. And when we got to the location, in our hotel, we kind of all separated into larger groups, to get some food. And my group, including that guy, decided to go to this Middle Eastern restaurant of some sort. And we were there, we were talking and stuff. And then one of my first conversations with that guy was, I think he was asking how old I was, or he just kind of said, oh, you're 22 or 23, right? And I was like, no, I'm a freshman, I'm 19. He's like, oh, wow, I thought you were older than that. Because he's quite a few years older than me. And so I guess he assumed that I was older just because I acted confident or whatever. But I think if I wasn't the youngest person on the trip, I was the second youngest person. And so anyways, that's neither here nor there. We walked afterwards, and we were just kind of walking around, and especially when I was younger, I used to be very notorious for taking photos, and they would be very candid, not very flattering photos of just anything. Some of them were good, but I would just kind of take photos of just different things because I wanted to, remember the experience and stuff. And that guy and I started just talking. He just kept on trying to talk with me. I was talking with other people, and then he would just find a way to talk. And we got to talking about astrology and philosophy. And we even talked about relationships and stuff. And just all different types of things. And I found him very interesting. He wasn't my type. I noticed that he had a lot of tattoos, and he told me the meaning behind some of those tattoos, and I thought that was really different because I had, at this point, had never been friends with someone that had several tattoos, or I don't even know if I had even been friends with someone that had tattoos. I was very sheltered. But anyways, yeah, so the more and more I got to know him, the more and more he was very interesting to me. he had this kind of hipster style, and he had these big glasses, and I was just like, not my type at the time, but I was like, there's just something about him I really like. And I started to pinpoint that the way he had like certain expressions that he would do with his face that just made him, in my mind, more and more attractive. And it wasn't that he was, I mean, he's a pretty good looking guy, but he wasn't like the most handsome. But the way his personality, his style, his quirkiness just kind of made him more and more appealing to me. And at this point, you know, we kind of continued on with the next day, or the following, or maybe it was later on that day, we went to conference, and I received a text from an unknown number, and it ended up being that guy. He had gotten my number from one of the people in our group, and I was just like, all right, that's okay. And so every time we were not in the conference, we would all go out and do different things. Like the first night, we ended up going to a baseball game. That guy didn't come, but we would do stuff like that. And as the trip went on, it started to be very apparent that that guy and I would either sit with each other, or we would kind of go off with one another. I'm one of those people in a group that I kind of like to walk by myself, or I kind of walk, but I always walk either in front of people, or like, I know that's kind of different for people. And he always like would keep up with me, or he would go off with me. We went to this one place, and then afterwards the two of us went to a museum while everybody else went their separate ways. And then there was another time where the whole group was basically going somewhere, and then I wanted to go somewhere else, and so he came with me, and we went on the like subway system or metro system that city had. And we went, and I remember we went to like a restaurant, and we got like bubble tea. And then afterwards we were just like walking and talking, and he started opening up about his family life. And I just felt like, there was something there. 'Cause he even put his coat on me, 'cause he knew it was cold, and he offered me his coat, and I accepted, and we were just walking, and it just seemed really cute and sweet. And then flash forward to our last day, or I guess our last night. We all went to this like Turkish restaurant for dinner, and the way it was there was one table on the left-hand side, and there was another table on the right-hand side, because our group was too big to fit one table, so we separated, and I went with that guy and a few other people to the right-hand side table, and we were at the very end of the table, the two of us, and we were facing each other. I remember we just all having conversation and stuff, and at some point, I don't know if it was like, if we stopped talking, or the whole other group was definitely talking, but in the middle of whatever, I don't even know if we had even gone our dinner yet, he sent me a text, and it was a link to a song, and he's like, you should listen to it, or something like that. I forget exactly what he said. So I'm gonna try to replicate this. Just pretend I have a phone in my hand. Here, I'll use this Chick-fil-A card that I got. I held my phone to my ear like this, and I was listening to the song, and as I was listening to the song, it was almost like time stopped. And I believe the song is A Question for Emily Foreman by Of Montreal. I'll also link that song in the description. But I listened to that song, and again, time felt like it stopped. So in that moment, I was like, is he the one? Like, I just felt like it was just like a perfect night. I felt super happy afterwards. And something to note, I had never even kissed a guy at that point. I was very inexperienced. I was just very naive, very innocent in many ways. And obviously, as being like an older guy, or at least for me at the time, he had experienced a lot more than me. And so it was just very different, and I didn't really know what to do. So after dinner, we all were like walking back to our hotel, and I was walking with this one girl in front of him, and I started like playing Taylor Swift, and of course I was kind of being a little silly, and playing like love songs and stuff, because yeah, I'm just like, we all know I'm a hopeless romantic, and it was just dumb. Not saying that Taylor Swift is dumb, or her songs, I actually enjoy them, especially then, but it was just very obvious that I was super happy about that encounter. And so, and it didn't make matters, it kind of made matters worse that basically up until then, people were kind of shipping us together and saying, oh, you guys are so cute together. And even this one girl said, oh, he like told me that he liked you and stuff like that. And I don't know if he actually did or what it was, but I just was, you know, at this point, head over heels. And so we get back to the hotel, and we are all going to go to this historic site, or like a good kind of chunk of us. And he was one of the people that was going to go with us. And then all of a sudden, as we get to the hotel, he just kind of shut down and was like, oh, I'm going to just read a book. I don't really feel like going. And so I just felt like, you know, when something's not right, kind of off, I felt like there was something wrong. Like maybe I did something, or, you know, I don't know. But I was just like, I felt pretty upset about that, in my mind. I mean, I don't think I expressed anything out loud. But I think I may have been like, oh, you're not coming, or something like that. I don't know. But I know we went to the historic site, and there's one picture that I took of myself that I've looked back on. It's not on my, like, newer Facebook. I had an old Facebook back then. But sometimes I look at that photo, or I've looked at it before, and I could just see how, like, kind of heartbroken I was in that photo. And obviously nobody else really knew. But yeah, that was such a horrible time. This is awkward. There's a guy that just came up. Yay. So, anyways, after that, I just knew that there was something wrong, that, you know, there's a reason he's acting that way, and I wanted to talk to him. And at this point, the next day, it was the day that we were, like, finishing up things in conference, and then we were gonna fly back to Atlanta. And, I remember he was kind of acting a little strange, and I was acting a little bit strange that day. And then we get to the airport, and I'm not sure if this happened before or after, but I went up to him, and I just wanted to talk to him. And before that, one of his friends, who's now one of my really good friends, I kind of consulted him, or I went to him to kind of consult me, and he was kind of saying, hey, Emily, I don't know if it's a good idea to tell him how you feel, because I think he likes this other girl. He's talked about her, and, you know, I don't think he likes you in that way, or, you know, if he does, it's not as much as this other girl. So I mean, I felt obviously sad about it, but I just felt like I needed to talk to that guy. So I ended up going over to that guy and asking him, like, I just was like, or I like kind of just told him how I felt, and I was like, hey, I really like you and all this stuff, and I forget what I did, but I kind of started to cry, and he didn't really even say anything. I think he was just like pretty cold and just like, it was almost like talking to a wall. And that was heartbreaking for me. And it didn't help that we ended up being stranded at that airport for like 10 hours because our airplane, I remember we got on one of the airplanes, and it was having like mechanical failures or something like that. So we had to wait for another flight. And again, it was like 10 hours. So we were kind of all stuck together, and it just was, emotions were high, at least for me. So anyways, we ended up flying back, you know, safe and sound. But of course, we were still in the same carpool group. So our little group, or just the people that we were like kind of walking with in the airport, I just decided I wanted to walk ahead of everybody because I just couldn't deal with it. I couldn't talk to him. I didn't want to be around him. I just was very confused and upset. So I walked off, and of course I couldn't hide for long because again, we were in the same car. So I remember that girl picked us up. My partner was in the front seat again, or yeah, I think so. And then he was in the back seat with me. And I don't know if we even talked during that car ride. It was very late when I got home, but I was like the first to be dropped off. And I remember getting out of the car to get my stuff, and that guy came out to, I guess, help me with my bag or something. And after I got my bag and stuff, he like gave me this really big hug. I don't even know if he said anything to me. I don't remember, but I just know I went back to my dorm, and I just felt really kind of low. I was just like, what the hell happened? Like, I don't understand. And so flash forward a few more days, weeks, we kind of, because of that club, we really all bonded, and so we would hang out with each other outside of the club and like go to dinner, go like celebrate people's birthdays, all kinds of different things. And it was hard seeing him, and I kind of would try to reach out to him and like try to do stuff with him, and he was just like, I mean, he was friendly about it, but at the end of the day, he was just kind of very standoffish towards me. And of course, at the time, I had very little experience with guys, or just like a lot less than what I have now. So I was just like, I just felt like compelled to, you know, tell him like how I felt. And so I wrote a post on Facebook, and I spent a lot of time on the post, and I remember saying like, I didn't specifically call him out, but I think I said something like, oh, you know who you are, or something. And I like was talking about how like I would travel and basically do all this kind of stuff. And I even had like people comment like, oh, this is better than Twilight. Like, because I guess I wrote an eloquent post of some sort. I deleted it at this point, but well, now it's deleted. But at the time, I guess one of the people from our group saw it, and she knew, you know, how I felt about him and stuff like that. So she showed him, even though it wasn't, like, he could see it as well. I guess he just wasn't looking at it, or maybe he did, or I don't know. But anyways, I get a call from him one day. I was just about to go to class, or like go into my classroom, and he called me and it was something like, I saw that post, someone told me that you made this about me, I don't want you to get the wrong idea, or something like that. I forget exactly what he said. But at that point it was like, okay, that's it. I guess that's it, and he doesn't like me. And yeah, it took me a while to get over him, but I eventually did, pretty long ago. And the girl that he liked at the time, I guess more than me, or maybe he didn't even like me, he ended up dating, and they're still together, and she's extremely nice. But yeah, it just felt like for a while there, it was just like, I just felt very, like, I just didn't know why he did what he did. And obviously after that, I've gotten a lot more experience with guys, and I've never really been on that side of things, and again, where I was kind of the one that was being rejected in such a extreme way. But that being said, I'm glad that I had those experiences. And again, he's nice, whatever, but I could really care less, like, now about him. And I mean, not in like, oh, I don't care about him. I think he's great, but as far as everything goes, I've moved on a long time ago, and it's just interesting, and you guys can let me know what you think about this story, but to me at the time, it felt like the right person at the wrong time kind of thing. I was very young and very naive, and I think that played a huge role. But maybe it was also a number of other things, so I'm not him, I don't know. But I'm glad that it happened that way, because I'm not going to reveal who at this point, but right now I'm dating a phenomenal guy, and if I didn't, go through these experiences, maybe I would never have met him. So I know it's hard, and for years, and just, I've been through heartbreak, I've been through all kinds of different things, and it gets better. It may not seem like it. Like I said in my just like unrequited love video, it's like, if these guys don't like me, nobody will like me, but that's not true. You'll find someone one day. And even if you don't need someone to be happy. You don't need someone to be fulfilled. And I decided what I would do after that situation is just become a better version of myself. Everything that I told him, I guess, in that post, I ended up doing. I mean, I've traveled the world. I've basically, everything I've set my mind to, I've done. And so I used it as a learning experience and just tried to be the best version of myself. So I hope you guys get from this that these things, there's lessons in these kind of things, and to always try to improve no matter how someone treats you. So I hope you guys are having a great day, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.